She's an incredible person. You're going to learn that she doesn't come from science and math, but she comes from math, geometry, colors, and shapes. That's a great question. Here I am. I'm science and math. I'm a winemaker. I'm not only just a winemaker, I designed wines from the ground up. I also started a business. I wrote a business plan. I was the marketing in the early days. And, I feel like I'm an example of true entrepreneurship. Charlie Crocker, my business partner, was incredibly supportive, but he was busy doing his own entrepreneurial things in the business world. And I'm grateful that we had great trust in each other, though we didn't know each other very well. And what that trust did was formulate a sort of a spine of all of the topics or assets one winemaker should have, and how to climb up that spine to get to the neck and eventually the head. There are certain aspects or assets or talents that maybe aren't going to be there for somebody who's going to be like myself. And in review of my talents as a winemaker, you have to be terrific at sensory. Your vocabulary can be trained, so it's not necessarily that you have the same vocabulary, but you have to be able as a winemaker to describe a wine like the winemaker sitting next to you. Same glass, descriptions have to parallel. You can have arguments about which word is more correct, that's okay. But critical assessment of a glass of wine is an important asset that a winemaker needs to have. I think math and science is critical. How much math and science? Maybe not so much, but if you know how to run a logistics program and a purchasing program, along with how many grapes are coming in and doing the math and being able to check on vessels, and that's easy to suss out in an interview. What's your curiosity? How many questions do you ask? What's your smile factor? What's interesting to you? Are you happy? Hard to find in an interview. Most people are very happy in an interview. They're not going to show you their inner demons and things that maybe will frustrate them to a point of frozenness. So how to suss out whether a person freezes in the face of adversity? Winemakers are always challenged with adversity, weather, people, logistics. There's certainly a lot of challenges, and you just can't lose your sense of humility, your sense of adventure, sense of curiosity, and the belief that you can achieve.
And maybe humor in there too, I'd say.
Super humor, you have to laugh at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially at yourself.
You have to laugh at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's 40.
Wow.
Right, 4 decades. And I looked a lot back to the 80s when I was just a puppy in the business. I use puppy because we're going to get 2 puppies here soon, my husband and I. But really being a young person and having a sense of adventure and being a young person and not worrying about being told no. Even though people told me no all the time, I still didn't believe that no was the answer. How much fortitude I had as a young person was crazy. And looking back on what I was willing to do in those first 10 years of the wine adventure, I'm looking for people like that or have a little bit. It's very difficult to find in the younger generations because people have cell phones and there's technology and the superhighway internet, and you don't have to scratch out anything for yourself. But when the lights go off and the power goes off, how do you build a fire? Mm-hmm. How do you hold a temperature? How do you calculate? And if your sense of adventure is willing to go back to antiquated systems like what we used in the 80s, then you're in. You've got a big step into being a great winemaker.
Keeping a pencil around instead of a pen.
Pencils are great.
They are. I like them too.
I love pencils.
Yeah. And erasers are even better.
Oh my gosh, the number 2s with that pink eraser, favorite.
Yeah, those are the ones.
I don't know. I mean, my sense of adventure was so good. I'm really happy I didn't choose to take the dental admissions test, first of all. Second of all, my dad was on me like every year for 15 years, like, get a real job. Please get a real job. I'm like, Dad, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's real. So he used to follow me around during harvest just to sort of figure out what was going on.
Really?
But yeah, when I was at Spotswood, I think Dad followed me around 3 vintages in a row, and he became, oh, there's Pops. He'd lean his chair against the wall of a tank and take a little snooze while we were working.
That's great. What a story.
It was really cute, very cute. And I think being in this business is life expanding, not just because you can travel to other countries, but it's life expanding if you know how to correct an issue. If you're ahead of the microbiological world, what's going on in a liquid that you can't see. If you can use your nose and your eyes, and you can use your numbers for doing, say, for instance, Brix and Temp, you can assess where that beverage is going, and you have to pull it out of yourself. Mm-hmm. There's hopefulness. Oh, I hope it won't go awry. Mm-hmm. Okay, realism comes in. How realistic are you? You need to be a realist, right? My dad taught me that, really. Dad used to take my older sister and I around on rounds in the hospital. We could have been more than like 7, 8 years old, and Dad walked fast. Dad walked this fast. We had to run to keep up with Dad, so I learned my speed factor. I learned timing. I was given a clock, internal clock. What time is it? What's the sun like? What's the day like? Where, how much time do we have to play at the end of the day? Like, well, sunlight's burning. I want to get my bike ride in, right? So, you live by the clock. And Dad would take us through the patient. Well, the patient's breathing, so we're alive and we're good. It doesn't look like there's an infection. The limb is not, pussy or gross. And, we were like, oh, gee, Dad, okay, that's a little bit TMI, but for people my age, that's too much information. The acronyms, I'm still learning. But I feel like if I've been teaching about fermentations and getting to the next level, to dryness, to getting the barrel wine in safe zone, which is resting, the elevation period, that's the safe zone. You still have to keep a watch. So I just take people through the steps. I'm like, what are the stats? Let's do the reality check. What were the numbers yesterday? Do we have progress? That's realism. And the reality is, the reality takes you to your direction. You can make all kinds of decisions if you know what's real. Well, joyously, Ray, I have a lot more me time and a lot more flexible time. And I'm choosing my me and flexible time. Well, during the last 5 years, my husband and I have been building a house. And I've discovered and have expressed a new attribute and talent within, and that is I can do space and color and lighting design of inside of a home and finishes. So I've been practicing, and I've had a lot of time to do it. Having Julie Robertson at the helm now as our second winemaker, her introduction was this crazy 2022 vintage. So I ran logistics. I was behind the scenes, and I have to tell you, I got pretty strong. I haven't worked that hard in years, but she was at the helm, and my role was supportive, consulting, teaching, and I didn't have to worry too much about the sales and marketing because Cyrus Hazard is our executive vice president. He's doing a phenomenal job. As a matter of fact, he's running a better program than I could have ever done. Thank you. I'm flabbergasted and grateful that the third vintage of Cabernet Franc is alive and juicy and delicious, and has hit its maximum, it has not fallen off. I can taste it. My mouth still has very long flavors. There's a lot of white pepper and flowers and cardamom. There's a little hint of the red raspberry, and in this vintage, 98 was, it rained on us, and it was kind of a Mediterranean rain. We had humidity, and it was game on. Everybody, quick, let's pick. And, when rain comes, there can be dilution, but we're really fortunate to be able to produce these beautiful wines. And it's got great color, just a little bit of brick on the rim, and you can taste the saltiness in the finish. So some of those are great attributes of Bottle Bouquet. CrockerStarr.com, CrockerStarr.com. Cheers.